Hey everyone, me Kevin here. Stocks just had their second best day on an election day ever. And here's what's going on, what's happening, and what you need to get ready to do within the next 12 to 24 hours. So buckle up and prepare, and that's why this one's a little time sensitive. Let's get into this. Just remember, some of the things that I'm going to talk about here are going to be easiest if you have access to pre-market hour trading with stocks. So if you don't have Webull yet, you really got to ask yourself, why not? It's free, and you're giving up 5.5 hours of pre-market trading that you could have. So make sure to sign up for Webull, deposit $100 with them. You get 3 free stocks. Quick tip, if you want your money to transfer really fast, call your bank and go, yo, give me free wires. It's a pandemic. And they probably will. Then you can wire money into Webull for free. It's there like right away, next day. First, let's get into the content now. First, the high coronavirus cases are obviously bad for stocks. We're back over 93,000. This is not very good, but it's also what we expected. 4 weeks ago, I noticed trends going up, and we're starting to get ready for a bumpy ride going forward, even now still. We talked about this 4 weeks ago because we started noticing trend data go up. So we saw this case rise coming. And guess what's happening right now? The trend data is getting even worse. In fact, if we look at the last 90 days, the trend data for COVID cases right now is worse than ever. We're at the highest point over the last 90 days. Then on top of that, we have the election, which obviously has brought its own freakish bumps to, well, the stock market. We had fears of a lockdown, which who knows could still come, at least some kind of lighter forms of lockdowns, depending on which state you're in, since we don't think anything's going to come on the national level. But we have fears over lockdowns, contested election, fears of armed riots and protests, and the countless what-if scenarios of court packing or China trade war, this, that, or whatever. But the reality is, over the last 2 weeks, all of this has come together as nothing more than a whole lot of fear. In fact, a lot of fear. The VIX was at its highest point, the fear indicator, that we have had since April, which March and April were great times to buy. Now, these created some amazing buying opportunities. Just last week, if you bought on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, you bought on some pretty bloody days. In fact, we were even worried that circuit breakers were going to start popping again in the stock market. And now I want you to think about something before I give sort of an idea as to what I think we should be thinking about doing going forward. I want to use this as a quick learning opportunity. Do you remember those 3 days last week and a few of the red days in the week prior, where you look at the stock market and you see your portfolios down and you get this feeling in your chest like, oh my gosh, this is going to get worse, right? And more often than not, it doesn't always get worse. And the interesting thing is, it's when we have that feeling, we actually stop ourselves from buying stocks. We stop ourselves and we take our cash or we panic and we sell. Every single time you have that feeling, I encourage you to make a small purchase. It prevents you from letting your fear take over and sell, and you train yourself to buy when people are fearful. See, I hear every YouTuber mention this quote, and I'm so over this quote. But here's what I want to teach about this one quote that nobody else says. People always say, be fearful when people are greedy and be greedy when people are fearful. But we never actually realize that the people in that quote is actually us. So in other words, when I am fearful, I should be greedy. See, if I put myself into that, I get a little bit more, it makes sense. The instruction is very clear now. When Kevin is fearful, Kevin needs to be greedy and buy. And you should be a Kevin on red days and buy. So take a mental note. Every time you feel that, oh, it's getting worse, buy. At least it'll help prevent you from selling, because nobody would dare buy a little bit but then sell, right? That would be like cognitive dissonance. That doesn't work. So take a note of that. By the way, this is the kind of psychology that I teach in all of my courses. I go so detailed and deep. Nobody ever suggests that there's a lack of content or perspective in these. So I definitely encourage you to check those out via the link down below. I think the Halloween coupon code is still up. I got the new designs in for the price change though. So you're welcome to use the Halloween coupon code still for those courses down below. Okay, so what should we do going forward now? So here's a scoop. Today is election day, and tomorrow we'll know with almost certainty who's going to control the House and the Senate, which is going to be very interesting for stimulus. In fact, if you want to know my scenarios for stimulus based on who takes what, you can kind of follow along in the election and see, oh, this is probably what's going to happen for stimulus. Watch my video this morning. I go through the different scenarios. But there's also a 95% chance we'll know who our president is, whether that's at midnight or into the early morning hours. We'll probably have an answer. We're unlikely to see a contested election, though it could happen. It's just a smaller chance. Lawsuits, after all, are already starting, so it's definitely a possibility. Except the first lawsuits in Texas, well, they already got denied and rejected pretty dang fast. So it's possible the court system's going to be a lot more resilient than we think. The courts want answers too, because the people want answers. So here's the most important question now. What do we do with our stocks going forward? In this market, it almost doesn't matter who won. Some individual sectors are going to do better or worse depending on who wins. For example, Biden might lead tech and renewables higher, or even EVs, like electric vehicle car companies like Tesla. Trump might actually lead those lower thanks to fears of a trade war with China or additional sanctions or tariffs. Now, Trump might instead lead financials higher if Trump wins. That would be good for banks because it would be a relief for people who worry that, what if Biden puts in someone like Elizabeth Warren as Treasury Secretary and, we start seeing some hard crackdowns on, banks and the financial industry. Same would be true for fintechs. Then on top of that, we've also got the Federal Reserve having their big meeting starting tomorrow, and that makes us wonder, oh my gosh, what's the Fed going to say? It's the beginning of their 2-day meeting, and on Thursday they'll have a press conference in the afternoon again. I could pretty much already read you word for word what Jerome Powell is going to say. It's going to sound a lot like this. The Federal Reserve is committed to using its full range of tools to support the U.S. economy in this challenging time. The COVID-19 pandemic is causing tremendous human and economic hardship across the United States and around the world. The path of the economy will depend significantly on the course of the virus. The committee seeks to achieve maximum employment and inflation at a rate of 2%. Now, I obviously don't know exactly what they're going to say, but I'm 99% sure it's going to be this because that's literally a copy and paste of what they say pretty much every month. So sure, we don't know with certainty what they're going to say, but let's be real here. Do we really think the Fed, after all this, is going to come pull the rug out? Don't worry about the Fed. Join the Fed, and the Fed says be in the market. So in other words, we've got a lot of clarity coming this week. We've got a lot of answers coming this week, and we expect the volatility indices all to come down, and realistically, it wouldn't be a surprise if we start seeing stocks trend back upwards throughout the rest of the year. When it comes to trading this market, my expectation is tomorrow morning, we have a good chance of seeing either a very green market or a very red market. I don't think it's going to be flat. It's possible, but it would shock me if the market is flat tomorrow. If the market's flat, I probably won't buy. If the market's very green, I probably won't buy either. If the market's red, which I think has maybe a 40% chance of happening, then I'm gonna go shopping in the pre-market hours tomorrow because oftentimes red that starts at the beginning of the election day, tends to taper off pretty quickly through the rest of election week and of course the rest of November during an election month. So for me, I would rather take the opportunity to jump in and buy on whatever the news is tomorrow. Now, what about for protests and violence? Well, I did a little bit of research into this, and statistically, the market likes to shrug off any kind of violence or protests, which is kind of weird because you'd think that sort of instability would be bad for the market. But when we look at the last protests that we had, we go back to the George Floyd protests. I mean, the entire country was essentially protesting and rioting. Stock market didn't care. In fact, that's where one of these memes came from. I'm sure you've seen this one before. See, here's the stock market. Happy kid on the swing. There's the economy. Yeah, speaks for itself. So the point is, I don't know that we have many big downside catalysts anymore. I don't think it's going to be the Fed. I don't think we've got a big downside catalyst with protests or violence. Who knows? Yeah, there is this risk that a contested election is going to draw the stock market down, and that I would like to buy into. If we have that kind of negativity, I would like to buy into that weakness because I think we're going to get way more answers than we get new fears. So the biggest suggestion I have over the next 24 hours, if you haven't gotten in yet, consider getting in. You don't have to look back and feel bad about the opportunities you missed on the red days last week. All you're gonna do is make yourself feel miserable thinking that way. You know there's always going to be another red day. So take the lesson and remember the quote, Kevin is fearful, Kevin be greedy, right? Remember that. Just put your name in there as the placeholder. Okay, but what should we buy? So a lot of people are saying, hey, look, recovery stocks look attractive. You know, these are your retail, hotel, restaurant stocks, especially the restaurant stocks that can deliver, you know, like cheesecake. You know, those are great for curbside pickup. Your high-flying lockdown stocks like Zoom and Peloton have been underperforming in the last 3 weeks. That's partially because of not only rich valuations, but I think the country thinks, no, we're not going to go for another lockdown, which Zoom and Peloton do great in a lockdown, but we're probably not going to see that again. Personally, when it comes to those restaurant, retail, and hotel stocks, though, I'm not so jazzed really about any of these. Now, I might open myself to a little bit of exposure in these, but where I'm much more enthusiastic is this. If Biden wins, I think Tesla and NIO are going to be must-own stocks in this environment. I started buying NIO about 3 weeks ago, around $25 to $26 a share. It's somewhere around $33, $34 now. This is definitely one to have in the portfolio. To me, it's a little bit of a Tesla hedge, and it's sort of the China hedge. It's one of the first times I've actually invested in a company out of the United States. I'm still a little bit asterisked on this, though, because remember, they use a state-run manufacturing facility, and I do wonder when that contract ends, I believe in 2023, is NIO going to have its own manufacturing plants, and how far is that going to put them behind Tesla? Are they ever going to be able to get, shake off the state-run manufacturing facilities, or is Tesla just going to get all the profit because they're going to have the scale in-house? That in-house vertical integration is key for long-term profitability. If Trump wins, well, in this case, I'm less individualistic. I'm probably going to stick with a little bit more of my broad set of tech stocks. Even though we might see a little bit more China trade tensions, I usually like buying through those opportunities. I started buying Tesla during the Chinese trade war at the end of 2018, along with some other tech stocks. So what I'd probably do is I'd follow some kind of outline like what I have at metkevin.com/1337V13. Those are great positions that, are really poised for long-term growth. So there you have my thoughts. Get your 3 free stocks with Webull when you deposit $100. Remember, you can also get life insurance in as little as 5 minutes. Check out that Halloween coupon code that I gotta get rid of within the next few. I gotta change the price already. And I'm gonna do that. We're gonna have some nice new banners and new artwork. It just came in. It looks beautiful, looks great. So you'll see that soon. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I think today is going to be a big relief for everyone. We are going to be done with election season. So no matter which side you are on, just remember, I really appreciate you. I love you being here. And folks, have a wonderful day as much as you can. Thanks so much, and go make some money tomorrow.